there, welcome back to my channel. My name is Lee and I like to talk about anime, manga, Korean dramas, and fashion. So if you are into any of that, then stick around. Today I'm going to be sharing some of the media that I have consumed recently because I didn't have a whole lot of Korean dramas or anime that I particularly watched this season. So instead I thought I would just share a mix of things that I've been enjoying. The first thing that I watched that I didn't think I was going to like as much as I did was a Korean drama called Alchemy of Souls. This is a historical fantasy Korean drama with a little bit of romance and action sprinkled in there. It is set in a historical time in Korea, so it's got all of the historical outfits, buildings, things like that, but it does not follow the traditional king, and it also has a lot of magic and sorcery mixed in there. And it follows Naksu, who was an assassin who lost her family because of the larger sorcerer families, and she is influenced at a young age to become an assassin, and so she ends up almost getting caught in the first episode. And from there you see her switching souls with a young blind woman, which switching souls in this Korean drama is one, illegal, and two, extremely dangerous, because if you switch souls, you could become this sort of monstrous creature that ends up eating other people's souls. This had a lot of Korean actors who I had not seen before. Lee Jae-wook, who was the main lead, I had never seen him in anything before, but I thought he did a really good job, and I'm hoping to see him in more in the future. I also really like Jung Soo-min, who was the main character who played Naksu, and then the character whose body she overtook. This is going to be a Korean drama that has a second season. Be careful as you're looking it up, because I'm afraid that they will mention spoilers, because sadly when I looked up why Netflix hadn't posted the last 2 episodes of it the week after the previous ones had been aired, I found out that all of the sort of spoilers from Korea, and they claimed they weren't releasing them on time because of, quote, subtitling issues. So just keep that in mind as you're Googling this show. Try and avoid spoilers if you can. The second Korean drama that I ended up watching, which is also on Netflix, was a Korean drama that was called Cafe Minnamdong. It starred So In-guk, who I am a big fan of, as well as the actress Oh Yeon-soo, I think So because it's S-E-O. But Cafe Minnamdong is all about So In-guk's character, who was a police detective who was accused of a crime he did not commit and had to face a small amount of jail time, and when he comes out he wants to capture the real culprit. So somehow he gets this convoluted plan to pretend to be a shaman. Now, shamans in Korea have a very large influence among the wealthy and in politics. So this Korean drama I found really interesting because it shows a lot of those aspects, which I don't really hear talked about in media a lot, but I find extremely fascinating. People come to shamans for advice in terms of buying real estate and in terms of marrying their children and what they should do in terms of politics, and also as a way to network with other people in the wealthy elite. So I found that really interesting to see him and another shaman sort of have that influence among people. And the female lead is interconnected with the male lead because her older brother knew him, and I don't want to give too much away, but it is a thriller show with a sprinkle of romance thrown in there. I had a lot of twists and turns in this, and I really liked how with this Korean drama, even though it was focused on a larger overall plot that broke down into lots of subplots, it didn't feel like it was losing its focus. Sometimes I find with shows that focus on like the crime aspect or a detective thing, they focus on other cases that don't actually pertain to the overall main issue that they're focusing on. This did a really good job of staying on track, staying focused, and getting to the point, and it had a plot twist at the end that I really wasn't expecting and really enjoyed. So I highly recommend this as well. Moving on to anime slash just more like animated visuals that we watched. My husband and I ended up finally watching Up on Poppy Hill. from Up on Poppy Hill, which is a Studio Ghibli movie, which I had never seen before, and I'm so sad that I hadn't, because I think it's going to be up there in my top 5 with like The Cat Returns and Howl's Moving Castle. It was really amazing, so beautifully done. The details in this movie were amazing. They have this building that they're trying to save, and these kids are working on trying to save at their school where their clubs are held. And it's such a messy building, and the details that are drawn in every scene when it's in it are so amazing. I loved the story. I thought it was really great. I'm really glad I watched it with my husband though, because there were a few historical aspects that I don't think I would have caught if I'd watched it by myself. For example, at one point the student starts singing a song, and it turns out that he told me that in Japan all schools have a school song, and kids are required to learn to sing it, and randomly like teachers will have them sing it as a way to get their attention, or at pep rallies and things like that. And he was explaining that's why they were doing that, which I would never have known. So that was really cool to learn. There was lots of also aspects of it being historical. I believe it was set right after World War I. So that was really cool to watch. I really enjoyed that movie. If you haven't seen that Ghibli movie, I would watch it because it's a classic, and I feel like not a lot of people talk about it, at least not a lot of people that I know. Now, the only anime that I actually started to watch and have not finished yet, I have a couple episodes left, was the anime Licorice Recoil. I really liked the animation style in this. I liked the aspect of like these young girls who are orphaned or who have like a negative backstory past, who are brought in and learning how to be like assassin fighters, crime fighters for the government. I think that's like a really interesting concept. I don't have like a lot to say on this just because I haven't finished it yet, but I did enjoy what I've seen of it. I liked the plot, I liked where it was going, I liked the mystery of it, and learning more about how the main character, the blonde girl's past, is now influencing the villains in their life, and how that's all tied together. And that was sort of where I was leaving off, was where I was learning more about that. So I don't have a whole lot to say about that. I'm gonna try and finish it in the next couple days, but life got really busy with a lot of work deadlines, so I'm mostly excited for this like fall animes that are coming out. So like there just wasn't a lot for the summer animes, which is okay. Now, moving on to more print media. These aren't necessarily things that are printed, but they're drawn. Let's start with 2 manhwas that I'm reading that I am absolutely freaking obsessed with. The first one being Under the Oak Tree. I love Under the Oak Tree so freaking much. Riften has my entire heart. Maxie is the sweetest being I've ever seen, and I want to protect her at all costs. I am a sucker for these sort of historical manhwas that don't involve time travel or the person being reincarnated. No hate to any of those if that's what you're into. I just personally don't like that. I like seeing more of this kind of thing where it's more of a historical aspect, where there's still, you know, a normal romance plot and all of that. So I really love it. It's about Maxie, who is the second daughter of a more elite noble family, but she has a stutter, and because of that her father often beats her and is very violent towards her. There isn't a lot of violence in the actual manhwa itself, so you don't have to worry about that, but she ends up marrying Riften because Riften is supposed to be sent off to war, and he asks the king, before I go off to war, I would like to be married. And the king says, who would you like to be married to? And he says, I'd like to be married to Maxie. And so the king agrees, they're married, and he comes back as a victorious leader of his platoon knight thing. I don't really know what they're called. Maxie, the entire time, has been living with her father until he comes home. Riften comes home and brings her back to his fief, where she sort of dresses it up, makes it look presentable to the world, learns how to manage the books for it, and she meets Ruth, who is the wizard there, and Ruth sort of changes her life. And so it's all about Maxie finding herself, falling in love with Riften, Riften being absolutely madly in love with her, and it's so good so far, so definitely check it out. The second manhwa that I want to recommend is one that's just picking up and getting started, but I definitely want to recommend because it has me hooked and I'm craving new episodes of it. is Call Me the Devil, and it is about a group of male devils who all work in a plastic surgery clinic, and each one of them gets their energy and power and strength from different things like envy, jealousy, things like that. And it's so good. They meet this young girl who wants to get plastic surgery done to get her boobs done, and you know, she can't really afford it. They don't really have the business, but the guy who's the main lead and who's the head devil finds out that when he looks into her eyes, he is not afraid of blood anymore. And so it turns into this whole thing where he needs her in his life, and she gets entangled with these devils, but she doesn't know that they're devils, so they're like trying to hide from her, but also their powers and their manipulating powers to be able to have her forget don't work on her. And it's so good. So good. I'm really enjoying it a lot. A manga that I have been reading, which is going to be turned into an anime, which I'm really excited about, is one that's called My Happy Marriage. And it's so good. It is a historical Japanese manga, excuse me, about a young woman who is put into an arranged marriage with this young man who sort of is from a very high-ranking family but has a history of not accepting any of his marriage partner proposals. Now, she is sort of the outcast in her family. She was born from a mother who passed away when she was very young. Her father remarried. As you can guess, the stepmother and stepsister are very, very evil and are constantly trying to take everything away from her. They take her mother's kimonos from her, they take away all of her jewelry. They basically force her to be a maid in her own house, even though they are a wealthy family and they have maids who can do that. And so she ends up meeting her now husband, and it's all about, again, a young woman finding herself, getting her strength, and learning to be okay despite the difficulties that she's faced. It's so beautifully drawn. I really like them. The male lead reminds me a little bit, if anyone plays Genshin Impact, of an Ayato and like Toma love child, and I love that more than anything in the world. So I think that's sort of what hooked me when I started reading it, and now I'm very excited to see and actually watch it. There's also a sort of like spirit element to this, where there are like evil spirit ghosts that he is fighting while he works for the like special police force. And her bloodline is super special, but I don't want to say too much because I don't want it to give anything away, so I just recommend reading it before the anime comes out. A manga that I started that I did not think I was going to like at all is Nina the Starry Bride. I thought that this was going to be a young princess who's helpless and kind of useless and really can't do anything for herself, but she is such a good character. She was very, very poor, and she ends up replacing the dead princess named Nina because she is like an exact copy of her. And it's all about her going into this arranged marriage with this sort of evil, dark prince from another country, and how they have to get married in order to stop like war between their two countries. But she is in love with the young man, the prince from her nation. And again, I feel like I'm not going to be able to describe this too much. I probably should have looked up a description to read, but I love Nina the Starry Bride. I think the art style for it is freaking gorgeous, as you can see here. I love Nina. She is not your typical helpless damsel in distress, come save me every 2 minutes kind of a character. She is charming and funny, and she stands up for herself, and she stands up for others, and I really, really like her. I wasn't expecting to like her and to like this manga, but it's so good. I kind of hope that it someday gets an anime because I think it would be really, really good animated. Let's move on to a couple of webtoons that I've been currently reading and finishing. The first one is Reunion. It is a short webtoon that has just been completed. It is a prequel that the author wrote to sort of introduce the characters, show how they are romantically involved, show a little bit of their backstory and their past, so that way when she writes the actual main story, she doesn't have to focus as much on the romance aspect, that you just sort of already know they are romantically involved and this is how they became romantically involved. But she is having it be about this vigilante family. So we meet our main character, Shiro, who is the grandson of a vigilante family, and it is his job to go out at night and basically save the city. And he is reunited with Ria, who is one of his childhood best friends who had moved away and is now back. So this webtoon is all about them and their romance. But if you aren't interested in romance and you're more interested in what her second story is going to be about, I still recommend you read this because it gives a lot of backstory about him, his friends, her, and his family that I feel like you'll probably need in the next series. The second one that I want to recommend is a newer ongoing one, which is called To Tame a Flame. It is so good. Make sure you watch it on, or you read it on, I want to say Originals. I'll put if I'm right here, but it was on the other one and then it got opted to be on the bigger screen sort of a thing, and so the author is reworking and rewriting the chapters that are already out, and it is so freaking good. Tai, the main guy in this, is a powerful monster fighter, sorcerer. I can't remember what they're called. I'm so sorry, I can't remember what they're called, but I love that his hair has little horns. I think that's super adorable. And he meets our main female lead, who is from a family who was, her parents were known for being a part of a very evil organization, and they are no longer alive. She was never a part of it either, but a lot of people still hold a lot of stigma against her, even though she was an infant when all of that happened. So he meets her, they sort of discover that she has this hidden flaming power growing in her, and there is this evil organization that wants to harness it. So he decides, I'm going to take you under my wing, I'm going to teach you everything that I know, and I'm going to help you become powerful. So it's just getting started. It's so good. I love their dynamic too. The energy for it is amazing. Two webtoons I know for sure are in, I believe, their second season. The first one is being Covenant, which is a action. I don't know. I know there's a lot of aspects of it that are LGBTQ+, but I don't know if the author wants to call it a BL kind of a thing or not, so I'm not going to label that. But Covenant is amazing. Samson, who's one of the side characters, is my absolute favorite. She is gorgeous. But it's all about these two guys who end up meeting in their college class, and one is with the church and has a gifted power from the angels and helps defeat these evil monsters that kind of come from hell. And then the second male lead is the son of the devil, and it's all about him dealing with monsters constantly chasing him and constantly trying to like go after him, so he's constantly moving and like running. And yeah, I'm not going to say too much more than that because I don't want to accidentally give anything away, because I have accidentally done that, as I've talked about this before. But if you're into all of that, then definitely check that out. The final thing that I want to recommend is the webtoon that is called Purple Hyacinth. It is so fantastic. I am amazed about the storytelling in this. There's music with pretty much every chapter, and it blows my freaking mind. There's a secret society, an organization that's trying to overthrow the royal family and the government. There's the police and a girl who can tell if people are lying because the words appear before her, and if they turn red, she knows that they're lying. And it's all about her teaming up with this guy who is technically a part of the secret organization and an assassin kind of a guy for them, but it's amazing. I'm obsessed with it. When they took their break between the first and second season, I was so sad that there wasn't a new chapter to read every week. Lauren is such a amazing female character. She is not weak, she is tough, she is strong, she knows what she's talking about. She lost her best friend at a young age in a train station bombing, and that is how she is so dedicated in taking down this sort of organization that's hidden in the shadows, kind of a thing. And so as you read the webtoon, you start to see who is more involved in this, and you learn that more and more characters who you wouldn't expect are involved. So I'm so sad I can't, I feel like I did a bad job preparing to describe all these things, but I highly recommend all of them. They're absolutely amazing. Purple Hyacinth is so good. It has me hooked more than I think anything else that I recommended, which is why I saved it for last. Thank you so much for watching this video, and if you liked this, hopefully I'll be coming out with some more. I definitely will be talking about more of the fall season of Korean dramas and anime soon, so stay tuned for that.